Catch a cupcake. You'll get it, buddy.
Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and this is The Broken Meeple, a show where I talk and rant about board games, usually more the latter. We'll get on with the video in just a second, but first my sponsor would like a quick word. As gamers, we find it hard to deal with empty shelves, some worse than others. You therefore want a supplier that has what you need at affordable prices and delivers on time. For me, that supplier is KIENDA. They offer a discount on bulk purchases as well as a points scheme for future acquisitions down the line. If there's a hot title you're after, chances are KIENDA's got it. Wingspan? Mine. Arc Nova? Mine. Eclipse? Actually I hate that game, it's terrible, but you might like it. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to KIENDA and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So we got a very simple one for you today, probably a short video as a result. This is Forever Home. This is the newest release from Birdwood Games, who some fans might recognise as the creators of Dog Park. This is a game which I have not played yet, but it's on my agenda to review in the future along with this expansion, Dog Tricks, and anything else that it might have. But this is the newest one, again keeping with that whole dog aesthetic, and I mean, side plot, I do love dogs. I probably think I'm more of a cat person, but I still really love dogs. I just like animals in general, frankly. I will fall in love with your pets as long as they've got less than 8 legs, and I'm totally down for it. But this one is a pattern building game where you're essentially laying out patterns and trying to complete these cards, which will give you points, but also let you graduate these dogs into different homes like foster homes, the city, suburbs, etc., to score points in various different ways. It's meant to be a very simple game, very light. It boasts only 45 minutes absolute tops on the box, so I'm totally down for something that's short and sweet and cute. So the question is there enough in this game to actually make it fun, or is it going to be forgettable? The rules to Forever Home are very straightforward. You essentially carry on until somebody has completed 7 of these training cards which have the different patterns that you're trying to make on there. You have 2 actions per turn. You have only 3 actions to pick from. You have a face-up display of these training cards along with some of these actual dogs of different colour tiles, and basically your 2 actions are to take a dog that's available and stick it somewhere on your board, take one of these cards and keep it basically in front of you, or to actually move a dog on your grid. That's it. That's essentially what you can do in your turn. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the patterns on these cards. So for example, I've got one here that requires me to make a pattern of 3 dogs, 2 of which have to be the same type of dog, and there's a space in the middle. So for example, I could take 2 red here. Let's take the basic side of the board for now. We'll go on to the other bit later. And so there's a red dog there. There's a red dog there, there's a space in between, so at that point I have completed this card and therefore it's one of the 7 that I've done. Now, these cards will give you some points for the end of the game, but there's another feature. You've got 4 different locations where these dogs are effectively being, essentially you're teaching them tricks and they're getting to go to different homes. So you've got city, suburbs, countryside and foster homes. And so these cards will tell you how many dogs you graduate from this training school to the different homes, and you choose where they're going to go. Your incentive for putting them in certain locations though is that you have some scoring cards that are set up before the start of the game, like countryside wants 3 of the same dog, you get 6 points. Foster home is the safety one for every dog. But then a suburbs here might give you 6 points if you can get 3 very specific dogs, 3 points if you only get 2, 1 if you get 1. There's very easy scoring opportunities here. So it's up to you whether you go for the simple ones or try and gun for the big stuff. On top of that, you've also got some additional scoring opportunities with the dogs where these little meeples are set up before the game starts, and essentially it will reward you with more points if for certain things like on your board or in the different homes, etc., you've got the most of a particular colour dog. So, most rehomed dogs. Well, if the board is set up with a red dog there, then I'll get 3 points if I have the most red dogs rehomed at the end of the game. And these will be different every round. You'll still have the same 3 criteria, but the colours of dogs will be different, which doesn't change up the game dramatically, but it just means that there's an incentive not just to simply grab whatever colours you feel like. The colours are not just relevant for some of these and some of the tricks, they're also relevant for this board as well. And play just carries on with everyone taking turns until somebody has completed 7 of these cards, and then you just tally up the points and see who wins.
That's easy!
So yeah, this game ain't hard at all. It really isn't. I mean, this is the rulebook. It's a very thin rulebook, and that's got to incorporate the solo mode in the index as well. So I mean, there's your index, here's your solo game rules, there's 1 page for the advanced side of the board, and then this is setup, and then 3 pages to explain the entirety of the rules of the game. And the rulebook is pretty sound, and I didn't really find that there was really any ambiguity in here. Though I think 1 or 2 questions I had were actually answered relatively quickly by an FAQ at the end of the book. So this is by all means a gateway game. This is something that you could teach to just about anybody, and because it's got a very good aesthetic with the whole retraining of dogs, it's going to appeal to a lot of people as well. Now of course there's no real theme in this game. You know, the whole thing of, oh, I'm training dogs with new tricks and graduating them to different homes, whatever. This is an abstract pattern building game at the end of the day. But that being said, this is a very well-produced product for the money you're paying, and if you are going to give me a straight-up abstract game, then just embrace the fact it's abstract and make it look nice. This game is not trying to hide that it's an abstract game. It's not trying to say, oh yeah, check out the thematicness of, you know, taking your various breeds of dogs and arranging them in weird little squares and stuff. It's like, it's not trying to lie to your face about it like some games do. It knows what it is, but if you're going to do it, it does it by making it super, super pretty. This game is gorgeous. I mean, these tiles, yeah, they're nothing to speak of like art-wise, but they are decent, thick quality tiles. They come in a really nice, like really good custom soft bag, you know, really good. You can get your hand in there nice and easy. The cards themselves, great. They've all got pictures of all these cute little lovely doggies. Oh, they're flying around there. You know, cute little lovely doggies in different poses, and even the back of the card is immensely detailed. I mean, you've got like a sort of small family here, or like a dog watcher or something, and then, you know, they're teaching the dog, Lassie or whatever it is, to you know, do the paw. It's got detailed foliage, grass, clothing, the dog hair. Everything is just really good, and that's just the back of the card. You've then got the board. You've then got these tarot size location cards. Everything in here just looks so beautiful. So you got to give credit to the artist Dominique Vassy and Dawn May, and some of you might be able to twig that Dawn May also appears as an artist on Dog Park. So there's definitely some overlap in terms of it. I mean, Dog Park, I've still not played it fully yet, but you know, you can't deny it looks gorgeous on the table. Well, this is another thing. So it's got the aesthetics, it's got the simplicity, it's definitely going to be a gateway game that appeals to a lot of people. Unless you absolutely hate dogs, you'll get into the theme of this. I mean, how much did I go on a rant with everyone saying that dragons were better than birds with Wormspan? You know, if you're one of these people who thinks that dogs are the bane of all existence and you prefer cats to that extent, then fine. But, you know, for the most part, most people don't hate dogs with a passion and should be able to get into something like this.
I think not, baby puppy.
So I didn't have to explain a lot of rules. You might be thinking there's not a huge amount of meat to this game. And no, I don't mean dog meat. This one, though, still has you putting in a decent amount of effort to think about what you're doing. Because it's not just simply, oh, I'll just stick these things on randomly and then I'll make a pattern and all's well and good. The thing that you have to note is that even if your pattern requires, say, 3 dogs or 5 dogs in order to do, you only graduate a certain number of them. Typically between 1 and... I think it's only between 1 and 3. I don't remember ever seeing a 4th. But that means that not every dog leaves your board. So you might have made this really cool pattern with, all right, I got, you know, 3 pink dogs here and 2 green ones. Yeah, I've made a nice little cross here. But then the card only says you graduate 3 of them. So which ones do I graduate? 2 green and a pink, 3 pink, none of the greens, both greens, 1 green. And where do I put them? Do I put 1 in the city, 1 in the countryside? You know, you can cherry pick it to your heart's content. But it means that some of the dogs are still going to be left on your board, hopefully to synergize with more other training cards. So yes, I have completed this one. I'm now going to graduate all the pink dogs, and because I'm rewarded for having a lot of pink dogs in this particular event, I'm putting them in the countryside. Sorted. All right, what's the next card I've got? Let's see. I need I need 3 in a column that are all the same type. Oh look, I've already got 2 green here that are the same. Right, I just need a green dog. Boom, done. Graduate 1 dog. Okay, I'll put this one in the city then. I'm still left with more dogs on the board. Does it synergize with another pattern? And this carries on throughout the game. It gives you, because you've got the different incentives for the 4 different locations they can go to, as well as the extra points you're getting for this board at the end. The colors become important, but also just the fact that the training cards always want you to have usually at least 1 type of dog, at most 2 types of dogs in the tricks, So you can't, you know, have a, you can't have something like this where you have like green, yellow, pink, purple, whatever, you know, all over you. You can't make your board look like a Skittles advert. It needs to have some kind of formality with it. So, you know, even though the actions are very simple, there's enough for you to look at on your turn and plan ahead for. Up to a point. You play this with 4 players, you might find that the display of cards will chop and change a little bit by the time it gets to yours, but not dreadfully, because you've only got 2 actions a turn, and you know, you might not necessarily take anything from the display. You might just move stuff on your board to get it into a better position. So by the time it gets back round to you, you should still have a reasonable chance of getting a card or a dog that you were like kind of gunning for, and there is enough in the display based on player scaling to account for a little bit of that. So yeah, you got to accept that sometimes your stuff will get taken, but you should be able to plan for some eventualities, and at the end of the day, there is a decent amount of flexibility with the training cards for you to move on to other options. There are 2 other methods of playing this game. I've shown you the basic side of the board. There is an advanced side of the board, which essentially has a couple of slightly fiddly rules with it, but not too bad, where essentially if you place a dog on one of these spaces that has arrows on it or a particular icon, it allows you to do some shenanigans like swap a dog, swap a card, you know, move a dog across the entire field, that kind of thing. The rules on how they apply in terms of when you place a dog on one and when you like move a dog to one of these spaces and how they trigger takes probably a second read in order to get it firmly in your head. It's maybe a little bit weird when you read it for the first time, but once you've got that down, honestly, after you've played a game with the basic side, you're pretty much just going to play with the advanced side all the time now, because the advanced side just introduces a lot of extra, you know, strategic ways or tactical ways that you can manipulate the dogs on your board. And so once you know, if I'm teaching this to like my family or like really new gamers, then fine, stick with the basic side and you'll be fine. But any gamer, you could pretty much just shove them straight into the advanced mode and they'll be totally fine with working with it. And then they will never look back. But at least you've got the 2 modes and you can easily choose between the 2. You've also got a solo mode. If you just want to have the puzzle of pattern building, the solo mode is a nice little feature. Very straightforward. It just basically has a deck that removes cards and dogs from it at, you know, at random times, you know, very easy. But it's kind of like almost like a time trial type thing. Yes, you're trying to get beat your own score, which is, you know, not the best thing ever. But what it essentially means is that you now have, this side of the board where as you go through the game, you've only got so many rounds before you start losing negative points. And what you're trying to do is obviously get the highest score by the time you decide, I want to end the game. You can end the game at round 8, but then if you do it in around 9 or 10, you'll have lost points, which is quite a significant amount of points. I mean, you really do not want to end this game on round 9 or 10 unless you've got a hell of a good reason to. So typically round 8. But as you go through each round, you have to choose where to put one of these coloured dogs on, and you get bonus points for like having more green dogs in training than pink dogs. But you're deciding how these score throughout the solo game. So you can see how you're getting on and then build the scoring conditions yourself, which is quite a neat little feature. Other than that, that's essentially the solo challenge. It's fine. I could play it every now and again. At least you'll get through it very quickly. I mean, you'll be done and dusted with it in 20 minutes. You know, very simple rules and very simple operation. You know, the AI doesn't really have an AI. It's just literally flip a card and remove some stuff. Now, of course, being a very simple game with, you know, an ever-changing display and that, there's going to be an element of luck in this, and this is not a huge negative on the game, frankly, because this is like a 20 to 45 minute time frame, and it actually does keep to a 20 to 45 minute time frame. This is a super fast game, but you have to accept that sometimes, particularly with more players, and when these, you know, cards get flipped over into the display, that sometimes the right card just turns up for the right person exactly when they need it. It's like, yeah, I've got this stuff all over the board. What am I supposed to do with this? Oh, that's nice. I've already got like 3 in a column. Sweet. I'll take this card and I can do this nice and quick. It's gonna happen, but it's a simple, like, gateway game. It's not meant to be a serious 3-hour Euro, and I know I've harped on, you know, on games in the past for having too much luck in them. It's not that I want every game to have no luck in it at all, but there's a difference between a 25-minute game having an element of luck and a 3-hour Euro having an element of luck. You know, there's a huge difference there. For something like this that's super simple and super light, it's not that big a deal, but yeah, you are just gonna have to accept that these things can happen. You know, the right cards can just turn up, or maybe you've got stuff on your board and just nothing turns up that fits with you. But again, you're done and dusted in 30 minutes. This is a filler game. Just pack up, rinse and go again, or just accept that that's what happens in a filler game. I mean, do you give Love Letter a hard time because you don't draw the right card at the right time? Not terribly, so it's not a huge negative here, you just gotta bear it in mind. Another little minor point is that the player scaling is good to an extent, but it's 2 to 5. You don't really desperately need to play this with 5. I mean, the display will be more chaotic and you're just adding more downtime where it starts going to that whole 45-minute sort of time frame. I mean, it shouldn't even take an hour, frankly, unless you've got really slow players, but yeah, you're going to the higher end if you have 5 of you. But the other thing is that the display has a kind of weird scaling thing about it. You have the same number of dogs and cards available for 2 to 3 players, and then a different number for 4 to 5 players. So you don't have a different count for each player. It's not like you say cards +1 for players and dogs +1 for players. It has a set amount. So I don't quite get why it doesn't change between 2 and 3 and why it doesn't change between 4 and 5. You would think that it should change at every player count. Now, I'm pretty positive you could house rule this in, whatever. You know, if you're not happy with how 3 player feels a little bit, you know, tighter than 2 and how 5 feels very tight compared to 4, then kind of a bit like Ticket to Ride in that respect, then you could easily house rule it. Just say that you put in players +1 number of stuff in the middle and then you'll have enough of, you know, it will fix that problem for you. That's not something I say you need to do in this game, but it's just one minor niggle I had, which I can choose to fix, or I can just say, you know what, it's not a big deal. So Forever Home is not reinventing the wheel, it's not doing anything particularly new or innovative, it's just giving you exactly what it says on the tin. A simple pattern building abstract that anybody can play, that has a very nice charming aesthetic, that really looks nice on the table, and plays in a filler length time frame, and I mean typically a filler length time frame. You play this with 2 to 3 players, it will easily be filler length. You play it with 4, could still be filler length, maybe just slightly above, but we are still talking probably splendor levels of length here. 5 just maybe going on a bit longer. But, you know, for what it is, it's a very charming little game, and it's nice to see another proper gateway game that I can, you know, talk about. You know, so many big Euros, so many huge Kickstarters and that. To have a game which is just nice, straight up and simple. You know, look, we're waiting for people to turn up. We got like 20-30 minutes or so. Why don't we just play a little bit of pattern building? And there are people I know that are dog lovers, they'll get into this theme. I like dogs, I get into this, you know, theme and aesthetic. But even if you're not a massive animal person, unless you categorically hate dogs, you're still gonna look at this artwork and just go, it's so gorgeous, it's so pretty, it's so charming, and it will certainly appeal to a lot of players. But with very simple rules, with a little bit of flexibility in the scoring, different options for you to pursue, and just a, you know, not terribly meaty, but not autopilot puzzle in front of you, it ticks the boxes for what a little gateway game needs to be. Do I want to play it over and over again? No, it's one that I sort of go, right, I'll bring it to a night, we've played it once, and I'm kind of good, right? We can leave it out of the bag and now I'll bring it maybe next time. But it's a very easy to store, very simple little gateway game that I think deserves a little bit of attention, because we don't have a lot of these gateway games and we don't have a lot of games themed around dogs, frankly. I mean, let's face it, this is kind of what you know, Lottie and Jack are doing as their sort of passion project with this company, you know, all about dogs. They clearly love them. So, you know, it's good to actually see a theme being utilized that we don't see very often, or at least not very often in good games. This one I'm giving a solid 7 out of 10. It's a good game, you know, it's not going to blow your mind, it's not going to blow the doors off or anything, but it's still just a very charming game, a little zen-like puzzle game that's going to make any dog lover just go, aww, and, you know, looking at all the cute aesthetics. And even if you're not necessarily a dog lover, it's still a decent enough abstract that's going to give you what you want from a filler-length game. So that's it from me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the page. Don't forget to check out the other content I've been doing lately. I'm fresh back from the UK Games Expo, and there's a lot to talk about on there, so by all means check out the 2-part series I did for that, whether in podcast or YouTube form, and, you know, listen to my ramblings about various games and let me know your thoughts on there. And of course, if you want to show any support for the show, then by all means check out the Patreon, where, you know, anything that you chip in to help on the Patreon helps me to get review copies to review on this channel and provide content for you. So until next time, regardless of whether you believe you can teach a dog new tricks, it's still only a game, so bye for now.